There is brand new reporting today that takes us deep inside Jared Kushner's investment firm, which is raising plenty of eyebrows as his father-in-law runs for president again. And his shockingly comfortable mindset with all the ethical questions about political favors and foreign policy that only mount as Kushner's firm grows. The Times has brand new details about the investors and the investees that Kushner befriended years earlier during his time as that unpaid Trump White House advisor. The reporting says that Kushner, in an interview, quote, did not dispute that the Middle East contacts he made while in government became the keys to his post-White House career, end quote. Kushner admitted his firm had been, quote, very selective in whom to invest, having vetted more than 1,400 investment opportunities and then making 10 deals in amounts ranging from $100 million to $500 million with companies in Israel, Dubai, Germany, the U.S., and an Abu Dhabi-backed company in Brazil. The New York Times found Jared Kushner's firm has distributed nearly half of its $3 billion, 99% of which has come from foreign sources, according to the SEC. That is $2 billion from Saudi Arabia, $200 million each from Qatar and the UAE, as well as a previously undisclosed, quote, smaller investment from Terry Gou, the founder of a Taiwan-based company called Foxconn, who Kushner once helped get a $3 billion U.S. government tax credit. Joining our conversation, New York Times investigative reporter Eric Lipton. He's bylined on this reporting. He is on the beat of following the money. And I guess with Kushner, it's sort of following the government career to the money and then asking the questions, right, about where they intersect. Take me inside this new bit of reporting, which appears to be really building on other stories you've done with a lot more information and clarity about where Kushner's money comes from and goes.
Right. So I started a conversation with Jared Kushner as we were doing the reportings on their proposed investments in Albania and the Balkans, in Serbia and Albania, and was saying to him that I felt like it was time for us to do an update to understand where are things at with their Infinity Partners, their investment firm. You know, so far, what have they done with their money? Where's the money coming from? What are some of the companies they bought into? And what are some of the potential conflicts of interest that are emerging because of those investments? And so he agreed to meet with me. I went down to Sunny Isles Beach in near Miami and sat down in his office and talked to him for about an hour. And so we talked through a bunch of these things, and you know, he feels comfortable that he's avoiding real conflicts of interest. But I asked him about, you know, at least the appearance of some of the conflicts of interest that are emerging, and so there are quite a number of them, and he feels as if he's doing the right thing. But certainly, as his father-in-law runs for president, these questions become much more difficult.
Let me just, again, they are a sensitive lot. And let me just leave it in the words of former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton, who says this, quote, Jared's success with foreign funds leads to the question of what dealings he was having with them while he was still in the administration, end quote. And then Chris Christie, as he is known to be, is a little more blunt. Let me play that for you.
The grift from this family is breathtaking. It's breathtaking. Jared Kushner and Ivanka Kushner walk out of the White House and months later get $2 billion from the Saudis. $2 billion from the Saudis. You think it's because he's some kind of investing genius? Or do you think it's because he was sitting next to the President of the United States for 4 years doing favors for the Saudis? That's your money. That's your money he stole and gave it to his family. You know what that makes us? A banana republic.
Again, Donald Trump faces Joe Biden, and there's not a lot of indication that this will be central to the presidential campaign, but the attacks have been launched by Republicans against Jared Kushner and this griftiness. And I wonder what Jared Kushner has to say about those accusations.
He is quite comfortable with what he's doing, and his belief is that as long as he does not ask for favors, and he, you know, does what he calls, you know, arm's length transactions, as he, for example, asked the Serbian government or the Albanian government to give him concessions or he, gets funding from, teams up with the Abu Dhabi sovereign wealth fund to buy into a Brazil fast food chain. I mean, his feeling is that he's not asking for favors and he's not getting them. The thing that I asked them in our conversation was, well, what happens if someone is actually giving you a favor in order to try to impress the potential future President Trump? What do you do about that? And is that appropriate for you to be, getting even unintentionally favors? And he says, well, that would be stupid if they were giving me favors that I didn't ask for. But, how do we know whether or not that's happening? That's the problem that emerges when you have a father-in-law that's running for president.
Hey, everyone. MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.